Now, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Would you describe yourself as a conspiracy theorist?
Well, I look at what officialdom tells us is happening and check it out. And if you can back that up with information, it's not a theory. And there are situations where you think, I think this could be this, or it could be that could be happening, that's a theory. But much of it is backed up by hard factual information. And interestingly, when you look at the dictionary definition of the very word conspiracy, we're drowning in them. One is the action of plotting or conspiring. I mean, that's happening all the time.
Give me an example of a conspiracy.
Well, ironically, we've had George Osborne this week trying to ridicule conspiracies involving the EU by likening them to believing in the Loch Ness Monster. And in the same week, we've had the Daily Mail exposing the Prime Minister for conspiring, in effect, with big business to frighten the public into staying in the EU, while publicly to Parliament as well, saying that he would come out if the renegotiations didn't work. That's a conspiracy.
Is that a conspiracy, or is it just politicians doing the time-honored thing of being less than honest with us?
Well, if you're telling the public that you will have the option of coming out if you do not renegotiate with the EU the way you want, and you don't do that. But at the same time you're telling the public and Parliament that, you are working with big business behind the scenes already to frighten the public into staying in, even though your renegotiation's not finished. That is a conspiracy to mislead the public.
What other conspiracy should we worry about?
Well, what we're looking at all the time are conspiracy after conspiracy coming to light, while the idea of conspiracy and the very word conspiracy is demonized. For instance, we have a situation with this Chilcot inquiry where we're going to see, indeed the information has already come out, that the Prime Minister of the time, Tony Blair and George Bush and the administrations, lied to us to justify an invasion of Iraq. And that is a conspiracy that has cost the lives of staggering numbers of people and created an ongoing catastrophe that's still going on. And let's not forget this. The very same people, not just the same agencies, the same people that told us there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq when they knew they weren't, those very same people gave us the official story of 9/11. And what the mainstream media is doing...
Was 9/11 a conspiracy?
Of course it was.
Who was behind it?
Well, what was behind it was...
No, who was behind it?
Well, again, in the time we've got here, it's very difficult. But there is a network that works through government agencies, through organizations like the CIA, etc., to push an agenda on the world which is unfolding by the day. My books in the 1990s laid out what this agenda was, and those books are now being read on the television news in changes in society and laws coming in.
Okay.
And the thing is, this is the point, the mainstream media has accepted that those same characters lied about Iraq, but will not question in any way the same people's version of 9/11. They're journalists, it's their job.
But do you still think the royal family were shape-shifting lizards?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yes.
And you also want us to believe 9/11 is a conspiracy?
Yes, but the
Doesn't that rather undermine... I mean,
well, no,
I can see the point that you might have some question 9/11, but if you also think that Buckingham Palace is inhabited by lizards, it kind of undermines.
But it's not that simple. There's a whole big backstory before you get to what I'm saying. If you deliver it in one line, oh, you know, the world's run by reptiles, you meet it on one level. Oh, that's crazy, immediate reflex action. But when you see the backstory and the evidence to support this, ancient and modern, you see that one line, throwaway line, in a completely different context.
All right, let me bring in. Have you ever believed in a conspiracy theory, Liz?
No, I haven't, but I think David Aronovich is really interesting on this because he says that sort of paradoxically we keep obsessing about conspiracies because somehow it's actually reassuring to think that there's some great network or some purpose when in fact the world is chaotic and random and terrible things happen.
And Iraq was just a horrible foreign policy mistake.
And we can't get our heads around it.
You see, as a journalist, I would love to believe in conspiracy theorists because they're much better stories. But almost everything I've ever investigated, it turns out cock-up is a better explanation than conspiracy.
Yes, I know people put a lot of work into conspiracy theories, but I still think they're actually intellectually lazy. I think, people just don't want to get their head around the way things really work. That having been said, let me say firstly that a lot of people are gullible about conspiracies. I think the police were extremely gullible about the Downing Street paedophile ring, as it turns out. And on the other hand, I'll just end my comment with this point, there clearly was a conspiracy over Hillsborough. And over 28 years or whatever it was, people denied there was a conspiracy, but there was.
My last book, before the present one, is 1,000 pages. Have you read any of my books?
No, I haven't.
How do you know that it's intellectually lazy?
I wasn't talking about you, actually,
No,
David.
no, you were talking about me, because that's what I do. How do you know?
No, I meant members of the public who immediately latch onto a conspiracy as being the most reasonable explanation of a perfectly simple situation, I think are intellectually lazy.
How do we know you're not a conspiracy to make us all believe in conspiracies?
People must believe what they like. See, this is the simple thing. It's ever so simple. You look at information and you make a decision on what you think of it. But if no one is investigating what governments and authorities are saying with a view to whether it's true or not, then what chance have people got to see information that they can then make a decision on? All they're getting is the mainstream repeat version of everything.
Well, in my career, everything I know has been investigated, and we go by the facts. Just very briefly, what are you up to these days?
Just got a new book out called Phantom Self, and I'm going on a world tour. All over the world, and that shows how many people are looking at this.
As in before you go on that world tour. That's your lot for tonight, folks, but not for us.